Hello, folks. Welcome back to the fourth part of our WhatsApp system design. Today, we will cover the API design of our WhatsApp, and then in the end, we will have some question answers and we'll wrap up for the WhatsApp system design. Okay, so where were we? So far, we have discussed the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, high-level system design architecture, or the lucid chart, database design, and the important aspect, how we'll solve the important features of our WhatsApp using the specific table design and all, right? Now we'll cover the API design. What are the important API? So I'm gonna write that REST API here. Okay, so the first API is that for sending the message, right? So what it should be something like in a post slash API slash message, right? So I mean it's very clear that we are sending the message with a post verb, right? So what all some people may design, may write something like this: send message. I mean, it makes that action very clear, but it's not required because if you make a API like that, then while fetching the messages, what would you do? You would do something like an a get, and then you would now this resource name is not usable for you while being fetching the message, right? You would do something like an a get message. So, so that is not a good design. What you have that verbs to talk about your action. So don't try to append your action in that resources. Resource is nothing but the module or the tables that you have, the entities that you have in your systems. We call that as a resource in the API design, right? So if I don't append the action into that, so like you can do something like that while designing REST API, post API message and get API messages. Now it's very clear the same resource being used and the readability of our API being increased is just that verbs are telling what action that we are doing over there, right? Now, when we are sending the messages, now we can pass on the attributes, what different attribute that we wanted to pass. Now the message is being sending from the some client, so I would expect sender ID here at least, and I would expect the conversation ID here, right? And we must have message ID message here. You may ask me why I haven't passed on that the recipient ID. It's not doesn't required because the fan out service will anyways determine given that conversation from the conversation setting table, given that conversation who all are the member of that particular conversations, right? So I don't need to pass that as explicitly here, right? So this would be a message would be a one of the pojo here, and the message would look something like this. Message we may have something like an message ID, and we may have something like text. We may have message ID, text, as well as timestamp when it was started sending from the client. Though we will not capture this timestamp while saving the message into the conversation, we will use that the time it being received on the server and persisted during that time. But as a I'm just capturing all those metadata initially because later on, if there is a requirement, these metadata may help you to deliver or figure out some other solution on the top of that. So we can do that, right? So message ID, text, message, and what kind of a message it is, message type, and it could be like, it could be the message of like chat, chat or add user, because everything whenever we are adding anybody it can be treated as a message, leave user or call, etc. All these notification that we have been sending over the chat window can be treated as a message. Okay, and then we may have that media URL in case we are we have a uh, we have a media that we have sent it, we have uploaded, and then we are supposed to send that message. So there would be an API that we would be having for uploading the media as well also, right? Okay, so and then this is that this message should go, I think this can go into the body of it. We can keep that message into the body of that post request, right? And uh, this would be a body, and then we may have the return request, return response. Return response would can be a JSON, and then JSON can have a so so there would be the what is the message ID that you have sent, and I and then uh, message ID return from server. I'll talk about why I've been, there's a one message ID that I've been sending from our client side, and we have been returning the different message ID from the server, because there may be the possible when in the case of an concurrency, there's a multiple message being to send at the same point of a time, right? So whichever is being processed first for those scenario, let's say few of the folks talking simultaneously, they press enter at the same point of the time. So at that point of the time, we may whichever the message being processed first, I would return that the message ID, the return message ID as a part of a response, so that WhatsApp client can update. Okay, this is the latest message ID at their side.
So the message ID that is being generated at the client end, it's
So
just the plus one of the previous message. Is that so?
exactly. So I mean, see, there's the message ID we have been keeping at the two places. So one is we'll have to keep the sync from the server. The server is being the primary source of creating the persisting the message, and whichever the latest message persisted, it will generate the message ID accordingly into that, right? But and also this could not it may be possible because we may run out of the integer can be overflow. We may use some big integer or long as well also in those cases, so that we can support a lot of conversation in that conversation, right? Lot of messages in that conversation without integer overflowing and all, right? So that could be a long as well. But what I'm trying to tell, every client, every WhatsApp tech client has okay, nobody's talking so far. They know that this is the latest message that has been sent is the 10 10 10. Three clients are being three participant of that particular group has the latest message ID 10 10 10 at their side. Now all of them started talking. Now the client one will send the message, new message, client hello, will as a message ID 11. Client 2 also send the message ID 11. Client 3 will also send the message ID 11. Right? These are the very concurrent cases, rare cases is when everybody is typing at the same point of the time, and this usually happen in the WhatsApp because it's a real-time chatting application, right? So which now all of these messages will be sent to the server. Now the you at this point of the time, it doesn't matter which one order is. We really don't know the order which message is supposed to be delivered first and which message, because here all of them were talking simultaneously. So the order doesn't matter here at this point in those rare cases, because we can whichever the message is being processed first or persisted into that, we can we can generate the message ID at the system the server side, the increment with respect to that conversation, and then send back to the client. Okay, this is the latest message ID for that that is being sent. So that now now this will be helpful in the some of the scenarios that I will talk about later, when there is an internet speed is very low. How will you implement the solution, so that you do not receive, if you even receive out of sync orders messages, you do not end up showing on the WhatsApp chat. In the WhatsApp chat, you can actually keep it at your in the WhatsApp client in their local memory, but you do not need to show the user, because you will have to sync with that server what is that latest message ID, and then accordingly you can, if you have that sync, then you can show up the messages, right? This would be helpful if you've received out of sync order messages. Then you can implement such kind of a solution to ensure out of order, even you receive the out of order messages, because you cannot control the out of order message. That maybe in the distributed world you can have the out of order message, but there is some checks and implemented that you can ensure at our side. Even though you receive the out of order message, WhatsApp client will not show to the user until unless it has synced with that server, and which message is the uh, it should sync with the server. And it will happen for those cases when there is an internet connection is very slow, right? So some message being received, some message not being received. So whichever is being received, let's say the latest message ID is being received on the client was a 5. Now there is a, now you suddenly receive 8 and 9. Okay, 8, the eighth message ID. Now there's no 6 and 7. Now the WhatsApp client, what it can do, it can keep the message at their side. It will not because of the probably some internet connection, you wouldn't have received the 6 or 7, because server would have sent to you, but that time your internet connection was slow and all, and it couldn't deliver to you. But you received the eighth message, right? And then you receive the seventh message, but that flow has been broken, that message ID flow there, right? So at that point time, if you receive out of sync order message, that you can check using that integer ID with the last message you have received, and then you will not show into the WhatsApp chat messages. What you can do at that time, client should be able to pull that, what is the latest message that has been sent, and then it will sync that latest message ID, and then accordingly it might be possible that the latest message ID are the seventh and eighth only, sixth has been missed out. I mean, because of the some problem, because of the, let's say the server went down, one of the chat server went down, and uh, few of the message ID is being missed out. And that so that though the IDs are missed out, let's say there's no message at the sixth message ID, but the client is still able to sync and come, okay, 7 and 8 are the latest ID, I don't need to wait for the sixth. Now once it syncs with the server, it can deliver show that message 7th and 8th to the user. So though there is a few broke, but client shouldn't decide themselves, it should sync with in those cases with the server and determine if 7 and 8 are the only latest messages, there is no 6 messages, right? So that's why
I,
we need
uh,
this that's why we need message ID returned. It will helpful for us to keep that latest check which message is being latest. Yeah.
I think like in WhatsApp client shows something like this. Like if there's some message between 5 and 8, 6 and 7 are missing. So WhatsApp client displays this conversation is being loaded. This may take a while. I think that's the thing.
Probably, yeah. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. We can present something like that. Ki the messages are being still loading, or we can give something user experience. Ki, yeah, like you mentioned, that's one of the way to handle the user experience, and there could be other ways
Right.
as well also.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So that, and then we can have the status. Okay. Now, these are the post API. Let's just talk about while I've been fetching, So during the real time, when you are connected to the chat server, you're being server is being sending back to the message to you, right? You have been push node as a push. But let's say you're connected first time to the server, right? Your internet was gone for a 5 minute, or you just logged off your WhatsApp, then you opened your, then that time you will have a new connection being made, and at that point of the time, the first job of your WhatsApp client to pull the messages, what all the latest messages for all of your conversations, right? and that's how it should be pull model. And then for the ongoing for the whatever the ongoing conversation for them, it should start receiving as a push from the server side. So it's like in a hybrid approach, pull and push both, right? So let's just design the API for get messages. So let's say uh, S- Here it could be a user ID. I mean, or you can call it a sender ID, whatever. Let's call it user ID. And uh, so these are the messages. Okay, this is the message with respect to the conversation. And with given this user ID and given this conversation ID, you may pass, query param, you want to fetch the last message ID last message ID you had it, something like an 23 or 24, and then you want to ask, give me the uh, next 10 messages. I mean, it should be like something, so get for a given a conversation user ID, the last message ID you read. So you should be able to fetch pro- whatever the message you can read, offset 10 messages, 20 messages, 30 messages. All right. So in that window, when you open that, you would start seeing from the first non-read message that you had it, right? And how will you get to know the because before that, whatever the read message you have, you must have the message ID saved, whatever you have read so far. And starting that ID, you want to know the next 100 messages, because there could be thousands of the messages. It's not You can use the pagination query to have that results being written in the pages, right? Now it could be 100 or 200, but think now how this query will go to this conversation table. Given this partition, it will have that message ID, and the message ID is already sorted. So what it will do, it given this conversation, it will start figure out the last message IDs. I mean, since this is a sorted using the binary search, it can figure it out. Okay, this is the last message ID, and from there point, it will start fetching all of those messages. So now you must be understanding the why the message ID. I've chosen the this message ID as a sort key, because this will be helpful for me, for designing my access pattern. My access pattern of the data of my WhatsApp are, something like that. So I should be able to fetch that in a very efficient way. Hence, I have given the message ID as a clustering tree in a sorted manner. Right now, from this ID, it should be very easy for me to read the 10 messages. I just have to find the one-time pointer. What was the last message ID, and from there on, the messages are just sorted. Right, I can start this next 10 messages or 100 messages. That's as simple as that. Right. So okay. So now what it should return, it will return the status. It will return, data. It may have to, okay, this should return you the list of messages. They should return you the list of messages. So you would have the data, and the data would have that, messages. And here we will be having mm, message ID 24. Here I will be having text, right? Hi. uh, Did you add dinner? So these were the messages, and you may have timestamp when it was sent. Now something like this, we may return whatever the information we want. Now the next message I would have message ID 25, and I will be having the text into that. Mm, yes, I had dinner. So these are the conversations being, in that order. I would have those all of those messages being here. And since I've given the offset 10, so 10 messages would be here at least. Now I would
Won't
be
be
have.
having sender ID, like who is the sender of this particular message?
Yes, I think send we can keep that sender ID. Uh, yeah, we can extend over there. I mean, so we can keep the sender ID for yes, we wanted to show who has sent these messages,
Right.
and since given this conversation we have kept the sender ID, we can all given that call we can in the single seek call we should be able to determine all of these fields. So timestamp, when it was sent, sender ID, and all. And if you think there's a more fields are needed, metadata, we can get it here. There's a few things also. Now uh, you would have the something like an pagination pointer, which is a fundamental concept. This will help you to determine the next set of a result. Okay, so you this offset is generally a some pagination pointer, I would say, that help you to fetch the results. So uh, let's just keep it for yeah. Okay, so now we have talked about messages. Do you know that the same message, the first API can call work for a one-on-one messages as well as the group chats. There's nothing being different here for the group chats and all, right? So that's a beauty if you model your data properly, na. If you don't be confused with the way the WhatsApp feature is delivered, if you being able to analyze them and convert into the simplicity, you can scale your design well, right? I just treat it as group versus one-on-one talk is nothing but a two-member versus three-member group at least. That's it. So for me, it's a two-member group, and the three-member group, four-member group. Treat it like that. Now let's just talk about there's another API that would we would need here at least uploading the media stream. So post slash
Just one
API.
question on the previous part, get call. So whenever the client comes online, will it send the multiple get calls? Like this is for each conversation, it will send a call, right?
First, I didn't get your question. Speak again.
This second get API call is there, right? For the
Right, it will
conversation,
send the multiple
it's
calls.
multiple calls for each conversation. It will send one call.
Yes. It will send for in probably in parallel as well also, or but it has to send
Okay.
the multiple calls for each of the conversation. There would be one more API that let's just talk about that also. Uh, conversation API, right? Now so far we were talking about messages and send messages. So there is a one more API that we would need. Get uh, API. Conversation is the entity, right? So I've just used the resource name here as well, conversation, right? So get API conversations. What we need to pass here? We need to pass, so there's a, okay, these are the query params. I was just passing those as a function name here. Okay, it's not a function, it's a query param. Okay, so we need to pass that user ID here, right? And we need to pass here so given the user, what all the conversations, right? Uh, yeah, I think so. Let's say your mobile was you had cleared the WhatsApp chat history at your side. You just system clear for the WhatsApp. Now you do not have. Now you logged in again into that WhatsApp. You do not have what all conversation that you had in the past, right? So how will you get to know? So at that point of the time also these API will help you get API conversation given this user ID, get me a list of all the conversations, right? Now since we wanted to give the same experience as he had before, before uninstalling the WhatsApp, right? So we must have saved what message it has read so far, what message was delivered to him. We will be still be able to deliver the same experience. So given the user ID, where it will go? It will go into the conversation user settings, and it will okay. It will given the user ID, it will know all the conversation ID in one single seek call, right? Because that is a partition key, and all the conversation would be there immediately, right? So in the single C call, we would be able to determine what all conversation he had so far. Now, given that conversation ID, for each of the conversation, there would be it can make a call to it can join. I mean, it can fetch from the conversation, given this conversation, what all the messages that we required. But you do not need to fetch all the messages immediately. You can do it as in later on when you actually scrolling up for the particular
Right.
conversation. You just need to, probably the last messages you need to figure it out just to show the snippet without. So when you open a WhatsApp, you don't open actually the conversation, but you still see the some text of the messages, right? The last message is some words of it. How does it happen? Basically, you can have that, uh, some snippet of that messages, or you can rather joining with the conversation. So you can also store the last message in the conversation table as well also, right? So that you do not need to make a join. So let's say uh, what was the last message I the last message the last message ID that it has, no, the last
I think
message.
we can add in the conversation setting table the last message snippet
Yeah, we can add
for,
there as well also, but we'll have to
because
basically
it will
will
be same for all the other users, right?
yeah, but it will have to make a join with the conversation setting table. I understand that it makes sense here, the last message ID and the what is the last message, uh, right? But without opening each of the conversation, I mean it
Anyway, we
is
have to make a join to get the count of 100 messages, right?
that is later on feature. Yes, I agree, we will have to do, but yeah, let simplicity, we can keep it here, and but we can also keep it here, uh, in the second table as well also. So yeah, we can keep there for now. So we should be able to yeah, given the user ID, we should be able to determine what all conversation, and uh, basically which conversation has there is a new message that has been come when he was not WhatsApp installed. Probably we can determine using both of these table, because these two table have enough information. We can sort them and then show that conversation which has the latest conversation, the next latest conversation, and like that, right? So and again, we may have, at any single point of the time, you would see in your in your Android phone window only the 10 conversation. So it makes sense, to only fetch 20, 20, 30 conversation only, and then when you scroll down, you again make a query, the next conversation, something like. So we would need to have that pagination here as well also. Yeah. So and now this should return you the list of conversation. So this should be a something kind of an yeah, uh, JSON will be written, which will be nothing but the list, like that we have written the data here as a list. So, and the conversation may have it will be a pozo like, this will have that what all attribute that we need. It will have the conversation ID, that is important key, conversation ID, and it will have that, the last message snippet. It may not be the full message only, but it's just that, few words, so that, because once you open that particular conversation, there will be another call will be triggered, and then you would see the entire messages using that second API call. It's just for, without opening overview of that the conversation. So I don't need to put entire message, the last message itself, into the message snippet, right? And then we can have something like a timestamp, and and yeah, I think these are the things. Okay, so now let's just talk about the fourth is that, upload media. So that is also important. अरे यार, okay, so let's just remove this. Now there's another API call we would need, post API, and upload. So this should upload the media for you, and basically it should have the body. I mean, that's a very standard process how to upload the media. You just have the byte array stream, and you would have the body for it, where you would copy the bytes. Basically, your WhatsApp client should be able to do that job for you, right? So, and the post upload, it should return you the response, something like, once the upload is complete, it should return you the media status okay, and uh, the media URL, so that status okay, and you should have that URL of that, so that now within that URL, even if you copy that URL and put it into the browser, you should be able to fetch that image or a video that has been uploaded for you. Now that URL will go, if that is because now the next step is that you have to send that message. So once you press enter, that will be formulated as a message, and the media URL will be captured here, and the type will be added here. Uh, right? If it is a media, and the type will be added here, and the text, if you have a text along with that media, so this will go as a message then. So it's a multi-step process in case of a media, right? Now when you are fetching that any messages using the get call, you would also have that, yes, you would if it is there is a media also along with the text, there's a media URL will be returned, and that media URL will be queried from the S3 location or wherever the media is being uploaded from the WhatsApp client, so that you can have the message and the media at present, right, at the same time, right? And if there is no media, the URL will be empty. So like let's say in this case there is no media, so URL will be, it would be like a null or empty, or here it will have that some path, HTTPS, S3 bucket, uh, image. Let's say in some folder you must have uploaded, and then good unique ID, something like this. So this, if you open this direct URL, you should be able to fetch that message with that media. Yeah, now I think we are done. So these are the four important API that I think: post, send messages, receive messages, fetching the conversation and upload. There can be other APIs as well also, but I think the most important are them. Right? There can be the login, logout APIs, and there could be other for a calling. There could be an API. We may have this, other feature that, like, we put in a status over in a WhatsApp. For that purpose, also we can have the status features. We can extend the same design for a status feature as well also, right? I think that should be very easy. Okay, I think we are done. Okay, guys, so we are done. And if you're, we are working on the next system design. We'll see you. Till the time, enjoy our WhatsApp system design video. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to comment on these videos. and reach out to my newsletter as well. Also, you can subscribe my newsletter where you can see I've been also giving the newsletter where I've been coming over the system design, right? You can subscribe to that and go and happy learning.